So in today's session, let's continue on the identification of elements in Tosca by using properties we have already seen, and now we will see how we could identify by using this anchor, the index thing. Whereas for the parent control, this after some sessions we will be seeing in one of the uh, sessions. So for now, we would not be looking into this part, but other than that, this three we will see in today's session. So I hope everyone is clear on how we could identify elements by using the properties. Any questions from anyone before I start further again?
No problem.
Okay, so let me then quickly uh, scan this application. So we had seen how we could scan or locate any given element. So here we have seen that login page we had scanned by using the properties, and what properties we have taken is what in this properties section even we can see those things. So what property we have to pick is what I hope everyone is clear on that. Now what we will try to do is, let us try to scan again the same application and here. So whatever I'm explaining over here, as I said, you can apply this same thing to any other application even. So that's where you would learn more onto that. So try using any different applications, and whatever you would learn in a different session, practice that same thing from your end. So when you do that, that's where you might get more doubts or questions. So that is where you have to utilize this session, I would say. So here I have scanned that page, and then I'll kind of condense this, and then whatever elements I would want from this page. So now I can pick those elements. Let's talk about this email ID, password, and then the login button. Let's say I want to interact with these fields. So currently, if we see here, by default, Tosca would be identifying it with the properties. And what property Tosca is picking for those elements would be like defaultly, it could pick depending on different element application and so on. So it might just pick some value, and then if you see, it shows the item, the selected item is unique. So uniquely, somehow it would be identifying those elements. So first thing, even though if it does, when you are identifying with properties, when you are identifying this particular thing with properties, you would have to make sure whatever Tosca has picked that property, can you rely on that? So if your answer is yes, then yes, you don't want to do any change. You don't have to do any changes. You could save and close that, move ahead with your automation. But if you think, okay, Tosca has not picked a particular property where you can't rely on, then based on your knowledge on how you would have to pick the elements, properties, and so on, you have to do that part. So now assume that for this element, there is no property like called input ID or this email field. Assume we for any specific element or some different application or for any element, assume there is no such property which is helping us to identify or locate an element uniquely. Then if we don't have that, here as we can see, this elements probably are what do I say, are not unique, right? When the element is not unique, how we can make this element unique? By properties. But assume there is no property which is helping us to make that element unique. Then what is the next thing that we could do? Then here comes the next methods, how you could identify or locate an element with some other things. So if not properties, you would see if you click on this identify by over here, you would have anchor, image, index. So let's talk about identifying that element with anchor. So what do you mean by anchor? And the moment if I click on this anchor, you would see now this email element, is it unique or not unique?
Unique.
Unique. So password element, is it unique or not unique?
Not it.
Not unique.
Not unique. So if we want to make this element unique, what we have to do? Pick the properties. But assume we don't want to pick the properties, then we would go select by anchor. Now, what is this exactly the anchor thing? And first thing, by default, what Tosca does. First of all, let's try to understand the anchor. Now, what do you mean by anchor is, so here you would want the element. So which element you are referring to? The first one, if we talk about, what is our first element?
Email.
Email.
Email. Email text field. So this is the text field, and this text field is what you would want to interact with. So this particular text field, right? So based on your requirement. Now for this field, since you want to make this element unique, and if properties are not helping us to make that element unique, then what we can do? We could use anchor. What is anchor? Now what anchor does, or what anchor says is, okay, if you want your required element, it is not unique, you could pick any other element on the page, on the screen, any other element which you think you can make that element or locate it uniquely. So no, other than this element, what do you think? Which element can you uh, pick, or which element can you think you could make that element as unique? Can anyone say which element reference? Now, anchor is nothing but take some other elements reference and make that other element as unique. When you make other element as unique, based on that other element uniqueness, you would be able to make your element unique. Now, what do you think? What do you suggest? Which element can we make unique or locate element uniquely other than the required element?
Password
Okay. Okay,
and
let's say the
search store, like search field.
okay, search store, search field, cool. And anything else from anyone? Any other elements? So you could say,
So
okay,
you
this
can say that
element.
a returning customer is whichever is near to this email. Maybe we can take that returning customer. It is showing only one.
r- Right. So yeah, even we would come to this, but then yeah, it is a text field. This is a search button, or be it any other elements, or uh, all those things. You could take even this uh, particular things. Yes, any element you could locate. So once you know this particular element, if you would select any of this element on this page, on this screen, right, based on this particular screen, this element, we would try to make this element unique. Now how we can do that? So which element we want to pick? So here, let me just what we have to do is, I want to locate the email element unique. I'll say select on screen on this button, and then I'll try to select the returning customer, or I could select this new customer, or this register link, or say login link, or the search uh, store element even. Now let me pick this search store element, let's say. So this I have picked it. Now once you select that element from your screen, the select on screen, and after that uncheck this select on screen, so you would be seeing that for that element. Now which element have we picked? It is search store. And this search store, what property Tosca is considering for that element? Can anyone say what property Tosca has considered for that?
ID tag.
ID.
ID and tag. So with this two ID and tag, Tosca is locating or making sure this element is unique. And then if Tosca was, let's say Tosca was not selecting this and it was showing this way. Now, if you see your anchor element which you have taken, or your main element which you are referring to, both of the elements are not unique. So our main intention, the goal here is to make sure that element, whatever we select, is unique. So since we have selected search store element, now what do you think? What property could you select, pick, so that this element is unique? What do you say? Which property should we pick?
Text.
Default one.
We have a default name. So if I select this default name, uh, So when you see this default name, the orange color thing is being changed to green, which means now this anchor control. What is your anchor control here? The search store text box. That element is unique. Since your anchor control, your element is unique, because of your anchor is unique, now what happens to your main element? Even this is now unique. So this is being identified or located or found uniquely with the help of anchor. So anchor is nothing but a reference element on the screen, on the page, with some other reference element, making sure that reference element is unique. Through that reference element, the required element, we could make it unique. That's the anchor part. So here, what reference element we have to take is, it is completely on our choice. So we could,
Pradeep, sorry to interrupt you.
yes,
Can you go to that page, the previous page?
okay.
Okay, so here email is unique or not? No? So can you just, I missed the part what you said.
All right. So here, if, how would you know any element if it is unique or not? How would we come to know?
Means the reference should not be there anywhere.
Don't think about the reference and all. In general, any element in Tosca. Now we would scan that and pick that element, right? Once we pick it, how would we know that a particular element is unique or not unique?
So that
Anyone?
is based on the orange.
Yes, orange thing. Now, for your email element, are you getting that orange thing?
No, now it is not there.
Now it is not.
Not in orange color, so it is
Not
unique.
orange color, which is unique.
Yes,
And even here, if you would see the message, you could read here, the selected item is unique.
unique.
So this
Okay.
email element is unique. Now, password element, is it unique or not unique?
It is not unique.
It is not unique. So why are we opting for anchor? Because the element, we were not able to make or locate that element uniquely with the help of properties. That is where we are opting, or we are going further with the next methods that are available, which is anchor.
Okay, got it.
Right. So when, what is anchor? Anchor is nothing but some other reference element on the screen, wherein that reference element, somehow we need to make sure that element is unique. Now, how you can make this reference element unique? By any of its properties. So depending on what property do you want to select for this, you would want multiple properties to be even selected. Depending on your requirement, you could just select and make sure this anchor element is unique. When your anchor element is unique, your main element which you are referring to would be also be unique. So this is about anchor. And what element you have to pick, as I said, you could pick any element, but from the Tosca's point of view, from the general thing, if you would see, what Tosca suggests is, so for any element, if you would want anchor element, the closer it is to that element, the better it would be. That's the one rule you can just say. So now for the email text field, what do you think? Which element is very closer? Do you think login element is very closer?
No, below login button is there, right? So that is
Below login button, you mean the search text field?
no. Below the reminder me.
Remember me, this
Yeah.
login button. Okay. How about others? Any other element which is very closer to the text field?
Email label.
Email label only, it's very near actually for the password.
Exactly. So email label. So you could pick this element, or you could also say a returning customer. This is bit near. So not very near, just like email, but then yes, if there was no email label, then we could have taken this element, or we could have taken this element, or we could have taken this element even. So something which is very near or below to this, like password label we could have taken, or password text field we could have taken, or remember me label, even this part or this particular thing, forgot password link, anything. These are the elements which are near to the required element. So instead of you taking any reference element very far from that point, you have to pick something which is very near. Now here, if you would see, yes, I've picked this is fine. But now for password, now we know for password text field, what do you think? Which is the anchor element we should be considering? Anyone? What is a anchor element we could consider for the password text field? What is the anchor element should I pick? Why anchor element?
Email,
Password label.
Email
Email
text.
or password.
email is
Email.
unique.
Forget password. Remember.
Okay. And for this password text field, you are saying email or email this
Email
thing called
label is very
forgot
near actually.
password, email label. Then why not password label?
Password label. Yes, yes, it is also.
Why not password label? That's what. So here the very near element would be password label. And what Tosca does, if you would see, when I select this identify, select that element, identify by anchor, if I click on that, Tosca would automatically take some referenced element by default from Tosca's side. It is now, if you see, now your password element. The moment I just clicked on anchor, Tosca is showing this element. Now password field, is it unique or no?
It's unique.
It's
Unique.
unique. Now, how this element got unique? With some anchor. What is the anchor? What element Tosca has picked? If you would see in anchor control, it
Password.
is picking password, this symbol, nothing but the
Label.
label. And now if you would see the properties of this, what property Tosca has picked for that element?
Inner text and tag.
Inner
Right.
text and tag. So now if you think you can rely on this property, then well and good. It's done. You could save and proceed further. But if you don't want this element, then you could right click, remove this anchor element even. Remove this password thing. And then when you remove that anchor element, your password text field is not unique. Now you have to make it unique. How you could make it unique? By identifying the anchor, select on screen is what you would select. And then you could pick any element on the screen. So what element do you want to pick? Let's say there was no password field, then I would have taken this email text field, or I might have taken this elements, any of this nearer one, or I could take even the returning customer. So anything, whichever I would want, I could pick those things and then select on screen, I would unselect it. The moment I unselect this, now is my password text field, is it unique or not unique?
Not unique.
Not unique.
Not unique. Why it is not unique? The anchor element. What about the anchor element? Is it unique or not unique?
Not unique.
Unique.
Anchor element, is it unique or no?
Not unique.
Not unique.
Not unique. Because there is this orange color thing that we see. And now, so whatever element we have picked, we know that anchor element should at least be unique. So our goal or aim here would be to make this anchor element unique. Now, can someone say how I can make this anchor element unique if I want to prefer this one, let's say?
We need to change the property. Select the
Okay, what property should we pick now? What do you think?
Default.
Inner
inner
text.
text.
Inner text is what I can take for this, or outer text I can take, or
Visible inner text.
Default.
visible inner text, or default name. Again, default name strong is nowhere it is saying that element is returning customer, right? Probably even if you select this, might not give you the uniqueness. So default name wouldn't make any difference. So I think any of this, like inner text, outer text, or visible inner text. So the moment I select this inner text for this element, now your anchor element, is it unique or not unique?
Yes, no, it's
Unique.
Unique.
It's unique. Because
Unique.
your anchor element is unique, what happened to your main element? Is it unique now or no?
yes, it's unique.
It's unique.
Unique.
So this is how you could make use of this anchor element concept, and you could make the elements unique. So let's say this is a login button, and for this login button, if you would see, let's say Tosca has not picked up this value, and then only tag it is showing, and then there is no other property which you think it would help that element to make it unique. And most of the time, in real time, what I could say is, with my experience, I would say somewhere around 90% of the times, 90% of the elements, you would be able to make that element unique just with the help of properties. So you don't have to go for any other methods. Just with the help of properties itself, you could make that element unique. So the rest 10% which elements you would be interacting might not be unique with the help of properties. So for those things, then you have to think of how you could make that elements unique. So if not with properties, then you would go for some other thing. The next one, what you can consider is, let's say, anchor. So you would select an anchor. Once I click on this select on anchor, now automatically Tosca is not giving us. So sometimes it gives, sometimes it doesn't. So it doesn't matter. Majorly for the text fields that you are looking for, Tosca would automatically try to see the nearer label element and it is giving us. But when it is a button, for that button, Tosca is like sometimes it not, most of the time, like all the time, it might not suggest you. So here you have to rely on your own thing. So now you have to make this login button unique. So this login button, how you can make unique? What should I do here? Can someone say?
Select on
Select on
screen.
screen.
Select on screen.
First thing, click on this select on screen. And once I click on select on screen, now it is selected. Now if I move my mouse,
Click
I
on
could
the link.
select anything. So which element should I pick? What do you think? Which element should we pick?
Password or remember.
Remember me.
Right.
Forgot password or anything.
Yes. So for this, forgot
Remember
password,
me.
this password, remember me, or forgot password link, any of this is what we could pick. Once I click, I've selected it. After that, you go and unselect this select on screen. The moment you unselect select on screen, now under this anchor control, you would get that element. Now that element, is this element unique or not unique?
Yes.
Yeah, by default it is unique.
It is unique. But how this element got unique, what property Tosca has picked, you also have to check that, because you also have to verify whether you could rely on that or not. Once you are sure that you could rely on it, then you are fine. You could move ahead with the next one. So here, what property it has taken? Inner text and
Text
tag.
Inner.
and text.
The text
So
and
I
tag.
think inner text and tag is probably we could rely on this property, then there is no need to change anything. Now this anchor control, this element is unique. Because of this element, your main required element is also now unique. So this is how you could locate or identify elements, identify by anchor is what you would do it. So any questions from anyone on this? What is anchor? Why we have to use this? How we could use it? Is it clear to everyone?
Rajiv, I have one question. Like, it's little bit confused for me.
Mhm.
So we are like making the any of the field as unique by referencing that on
Other
from
element.
other element, right?
Yes.
What if the referenced element is not unique?
Just now that was the case, right?
No, no,
Where
like consider like we have taken the forgot password field over here. We are referring
right,
to that one,
right.
and somehow while doing the executions or somewhere again it made us like not unique
Okay,
keyword.
okay.
So will the anchored element like identified by the anchor thing it will fail, right? Why? Because
Yes,
again the forgot
obviously.
password is not the unique thing.
Correct.
So again, do we need to do the changes over there or else how it should be? I mean,
Yes, we have to do the change again. So when you have to do, and if you are sure, like, okay, or if you think wherein the forgot password link that might change the property, the element which you think you have picked is not reliable. So you shouldn't have picked the forgot password link as your anchor element. If you think, or if you come across, or if you would know later on that this element is not that reliable. So instead of picking that element, you should pick some other element on the page on your screen. And whatever properties or whatever element you pick for that, whatever properties you would pick, you need to make sure that property won't be changing very frequently or something like, so you could rely on that blindly until there is some forced changes in the application. Until that point, your thing would be working fine as expected. So that is how you would have to do it.
like will it inherit the properties of those referencing elements over here? Why? Because I'm like little bit like confused. Why? Because the field password field is a text field. and the referencing things are the link, either like links or buttons, right? So how it is like linking over here, the referencing things.
Right, right. I'll show you. But then about this, how we could, why we have to, what is anchor element, why we have to use it, how we could use it until this point. Anyone, any questions from this?
Can we select multiple anchor elements? Uh,
No, we cannot select multiple. Only one element, anchor element is what you could link it. The moment you select any other thing,
in
the
future,
older one
whenever we
would
are
be
executing,
delinked.
yeah, in future, whenever we are executing, so
Mhm.
whatever we have selected the anchor element, so that is not unique. That is changed to not unique.
Okay.
Then how the execution will be done?
Then this element, if it is not unique, your login element, the element would not be unique, and Tosca won't be interacting with this element if you are trying to do any actions on this. So Tosca would say element not found, not unique, more than one control found. It could say any other error that it would throw you. So at that moment, you would have to check what has changed, what was the, how that element. Now when you would go to that module, so this is the module and this is the elements that we were interacting. And now if you would see this element, so for this element, if you would see in the properties, what we see a tag, but then other than that you have something called as relative ID. Now what is this relative ID? With this relative ID is what you can understand that this element was identified with the help of anchor. Now, what anchor we have taken, again, if someone wants to go that deeper, understand this point, then here you would get that details. So if you would just click on this, if I expand, here you would say some XML code Tosca is internally writing, and then based on some relative directions and then some relative index positioning thing, what element Tosca has taken. If you go further, read into this, here somewhere you will able to find tag as input and then ID as small search item, text as something, type is text. So you would see here that with that ID, you could now at least know, okay, this is some small search item terms thing, that element it is referencing to. So for any element, if you say this login or this password, if you see over here, it is like some 178 something and then some inner text returning customer. And for the login, if you would see, there is some forgot password thing, and then there's fourth some position like that. It is now uniquely identifying or locating with the help of anchor part. Now, in
Yes.
case if this referencing, this relative ID or your anchor element, if any of these properties changed, any of these things changed, then this element itself would be failing. It won't be locating uniquely. And at that moment when it fails, you have to recheck it, rescan it, kind of rescan, check it, and then pick some other property which could be unique.
Okay.
So
Got
if
it.
not with anchor, then if you think, okay, anchor is not reliable over here, then you have to pick some other method. So that is where the next thing that we are going to discuss on. Uh, Let me just scan and
Okay.
show you.
Means whatever the anchors can, so anchor is there, right? Anchor element we have selected,
Yes,
right? So that will be disassociate automatically, right?
yes,
Okay.
correct. So let me quickly complete the other two parts and then I'll try to take the questions, guys. Okay. So with this, I would think most of the things would be clear. So here again, let us try to refer the same elements. Once you know about this element the same way, we will try to, you could apply the same process approach to the other elements. Now, assuming these elements are unique with the help of properties, but assume somehow because of some or the other reason, the element was not unique, uh, and then properties is not helping us to make that element unique. Then what we could do, what we have to do, if the element is not helping us with the help of properties, what we could do,
Anchor.
go for anchor. And let's say I don't want to pick the anchor even, anchor is also not helping me, or I don't want to rely on anchor, then what is the next thing that we could take? Then we could select index part. Now what is this index thing? So if you click on this identify by and select this index, if you would see what you are getting, index as 2 of total 5 elements. So for this, the similar elements on the screen. Now, if you would see here, what we have, tag as input for your email field on the screen, there are total 5 elements. Out of 5, the index of this, the position of this element is second. So if I click on this, now this element is uniquely identified. How it was identified? With index part. And if you would see index is 2 for that element. Now for login password that you have. Now what is this login button? So if you click on this element is not unique. If I want to make it unique with index, I would select that index part. I would select this index, and then what is the index for the login button?
3.
3.
3.
3. Out of how many elements such that it has?
4.
4.
4. Total 4 it has. Out of 4, the third index is this particular element for this particular thing. So that is where you would select that, and then it would show you this particular thing. Now
So
this
where
is
it is
how.
visible exactly, you are saying 3 or 4, right?
Yes,
So how you are saying 3 or 4?
Tosca is scanning, getting all those things for us. We are nowhere manually doing anything. It
Okay,
would
we
show
don't have
us.
any reference for that 3 or
No,
4.
no. Yeah. So this is how you could locate any element with the help of index, and why you want to identify by index. If the element, if the method, if the properties is not helping you and you don't want to go for anchor, then you can even pick this index part. But index, why we don't go too much? Because, so if you would see for some elements sometimes, so what if your tag input was not selected, and now let me just remove this, and then if you would see, now you won't get that actually. Uh, but then if you would see, sometimes you might have uh, 10 out of 100, 10 out of 200, some more elements, some indexes. So that index part, it's like it is completely based on position, right? Now here, if you would see, this element we have identified, there are like second index, because the first is here, that input text, and the second one is this. But then what if, why we don't have to rely on this index is, what if between this element and this element, if there are some other uh, text fields have been added by developer, or if this text field has been removed from this particular part, then because of the changes that were made in the application, your index element which you have taken would not be now stable. It won't be stable. Tosca won't be locating or identifying that exact element, because you have relied, you have taken the index position part, and the position, if there were any changes in the application, because of that changes, your index element may get affected. That is where you have to consider that only in the worst condition. First, try to locate it with the help of properties. If not with the properties, at least with anchor, do it. If not with anchor, and then if you don't find, if you're not making able to make that element unique with any of those, then go for index. So any questions on this index part? Is it clear what is this identify by index thing, why we have to select?
Yes.
Yes, Pradeep.
Pradeep, on what condition we will be preferring identify by index, or what will be the approach, like if we are unable to identify by the property?
Right.
So we are
So
trying
index thing, what you could pick is, let's say there are buttons. There are two buttons on the screen, and there is, let's say this is register button. This is also a register button. And then when there are two register buttons, and for this register button, if you try to identify or locate element, the property for this is same. The property for this would be same. And even for anchor something, if you go, you might feel something, okay, with anchor you could locate it, but then instead of anchor, for such element, what you could do is you would rely on the index part. Why index part in that situation? Because all the properties for those particular elements is same, and then anchor as well, if you would see internally, it is still taking some index part, position based only, but then some other element reference which is closer to that. So if you want closer with that as well, you could select that element by anchor and make it unique. But more than anchor, what I would have relied on was the index, because I know that there are two elements with the same properties on this thing, but then I would know whether I want the first one to interact with or refer, or the second one I want to interact with. So whichever it is, the first one or second one, with your words, in your requirement, in your things, you are clear that you want this button, register button, which is second one. So when you have position based requirement, that is where you have to rely, or you could pick the indexing part. I hope this example is clear, or is it not?
Yes, yes.
So this is how here for the index part is what you could take that element. So other than index, now if you are not able to locate or identify any element with the help of properties, you don't want anchor, you don't want index, then the last option left would be the image part. So I would select this properties, this particular thing again, whatever elements you would want. Let's say I want the same elements. If we talk about, let's say I want to locate this username field, the password, or the login button. So any of these elements, if I want to interact, and this elements, let's say it is not giving uniqueness, this element is not giving uniqueness with the help of properties, then when it is not helping with the properties, we would go for anchor. If not anchor, index. If not index, then the last option here left would be image part. But then once you click on this image, now what we are trying to do is we are trying to locate this email text field with some image based recognition on our screen. Now first thing that I would want to uh, say you is uh, probably this identifying any element with the index image thing is the very last or the worst option, what we could say. So if index is not helping, you can't rely on that, our properties is not there, anchor is not helping us, not making that element unique, which would be, I would say, not a such case that we might encounter in real time. But assume if all these three things are not helping us, then the last option that we could pick is this image part. So image thing, we would want to locate or identify this element, but with what? So what image do you want to consider? First you have to understand or analyze, and here whatever image based recognition, if you are trying to do, why you shouldn't be relying on that is because of the image. If you would see different screens, different resolution, when you have different screens, different resolution, the image may get changed. So here for now, let's say the image that you would want to talk about is this image, or this particular logo, or this registered text that is written over here, or new customer text that is written. So based on this text, you want to locate this. Based on this particular text, like written in this W capital, and then in this particular thing, based on this image kind of thing, you want to locate this, then yes, you can select that particular element, like select this and then identify by image from here. And when you go here, you will have, then click on this plus button. Once you click on this plus button, this is the element that you want to interact. But what is the image that you would want to consider on your screen? The image that I would want to consider, you could pick any image, any element as a image snapshot, taking the screenshot. Based on this screen mapping thing, Tosca would try to locate that element. But okay, if we want this element, I would take this particular image, and then I am saying, Okay, I want to locate that element with that image thing. And then once I do that particular part over here, you see here what I have got. So once I click on that no, here I've got that element which I want to interact with, which I have taken as the image based recognition. And image based recognition, you have some properties, some accuracy here. So the less accuracy, or like let's say I would give it, change it to 60, and then uh, just with that less accuracy, why I'm taking this accuracy less, the more you give 90, 95, 98 or 100%, so 100%, the more you give, exactly that same image is what it might be expecting. And when that image is not exactly matching with that part, your element identification would be like failing. So that is where, and how would an image may get failed? Because if you are scanning or you're developing on one particular screen with a smaller resolution, later on when you would want to execute your test case on some bigger screen, then at that moment the image itself in that application that gets opened would be in the bigger size. But you have scanned in the smaller size, and that image thing, it will just compare the same pixel by pixel thing. And if that element, obviously in the newer bigger resolution screen thing, the image won't be same. So when the image is not same, at that time if we are interacting with this email field, it would get failed. So if the screen resolution is bigger or smaller when it gets changed, your identification method by image part would not be reliable. It is not consistent. It would be failing for sure. And that's where this is where it is recommended that don't go for identify by image part if you could do it with some other things. So any questions on what is this identify by image?
Yeah, Pradeep, this is Vignesh. So even you were saying like even with the font type or font style also it will fail, right?
Yes, yes,
Like
exactly. It would compare the image part. Now in this
hmm.
image, if the W is capital and over there, if it is small, or font is like here bold, if it is not bold over there, everything inch by inch, pixel by pixel, everything it would try to compare.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it is recommended not to identify or locate an element with image. But again, there is another method that is available. That's where it says, but uh, it's better to be aware of what all things are available and how these elements or modules are being identified with same properties, which we have already seen, right? So this is all about identifying the elements in Tosca. And coming to this parent control, I think what I would say is, personally what I would when I do development, what I would prefer is most of the 90% of the elements with properties, it would help me. And then if there is some index position based, if I want to locate, then I would prefer the index part. If not that, then even before anchor, I would try to go for this parent control. So if I have now, what is this parent control, how we can get that is what I would explain you at that moment later on. But that parent control thing, when we identify, when we would locate it, right, that is more reliable, I would say, over there. So for now we will not discuss this. At some other sessions we would come across some other topic when I would be explaining, we would encounter this part, then I would explain you about this parent control part. But other than that, so these are the methods or identification things. So anyone would like to ask any questions on how we could identify, locate elements in Tosca?
Yes, hello, Pradeep. Pradeep, I have one question regarding the uh, identifying element by image. For example, in an application, if we want to test for a further UI part, for example, as of now, you were telling about the welcome one. So if you go on that dashboard, yeah, UI. So it is welcome, please sign in. So I just want that the same UI should be get automated that particular welcome please sign in. So I
Right.
just want to verify it. So actually at that time we can use identifying by image, because we want that every logo or some particular caption or particular header title should be get displayed as it is, so that sometimes it might happen that the after the deployment the JSON file has not been uploaded or loaded successfully.
Yes, you
So at that
can
time we
you
can use.
can do that way as well, yes, for that case. But then again, that image thing, if you want, okay, exactly this should be the image, and every time if my element based on something, if it is failing because of that image part, then you would come to know, okay, there is some issue with something that has happened. So if you are expecting the image should be same all the time, then yes, you could rely on that image part in that situation, in that case. But then when you would execute the same test case on different machine, and if that different machine has some different screen resolution, then again on that screen you have to make sure you have to create your own test case, a different one. And then on that screen, how the screen image would look like, you have to capture that and then verify it on that screen. So screen based different test cases you might have to create, and whenever you are executing on different screen, then that particular test case you would have to execute on that.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah. So I would say don't think much about the image part, to be frank. So till now during this, I haven't used even once about this identifying the image part in real time during this 8-10 years. I would say I haven't used this method. So most of the time, identify by properties itself, that would help me, and sometimes by parent I would identify. If not by parent, then by index, or the last one by anchor. This is how I would just choose based on situation things, how I could identify or locate element. We could pick those things. So for image, for the index part, if you would see in the properties section for any element, if you would see what you would have a property called constraint index, that constraint index value 2. So here you could change that. If the position has been changed from 2 to 1, then you could come here, change it to 1. Or 3, if it is changed, then you could come here, change it to 3. Like that, even you could, if you know, then you could do that changes. So identifying by index would be over here. And then for the image part, you would see the image thing over there. So this is how you would have this element. So any questions from anyone on this identifying elements in Tosca?
So identified by index as in it's a static thing, right? Not a dynamic thing, correct?
Yes. But again, yes, it's a static thing. And then why we shouldn't be relying, because as I've said, if there are any other elements added or removed something, because of that position change, your element might get changed. So position should only rely when you can't do uh, or rely on the other methods, on the properties or something. So everyone is clear on identifying elements from Tosca. So with this approach, with this concept, once you know it, what you could do now is uh, here now we came to know about till now, if we talk about what is a workspace, we have seen what is how we can create that workspace, what is a component folder, and then about this teams check-in check-out, those concept we have seen, component folder, and then user creation for the user management part, and then after about the modules, standard modules, what it is, how we can use that, and then about custom modules, application specific modules, why and all. So once we know all these things, what is the next thing that we would come across? So the next thing that we would have is nothing but your test case creation. Now, while you would create your test case, you would use those modules and you would try to perform the actions that you would want. So now, how we can create a test case, and even before that, so the one shorter thing that I would quickly want to explain is about the work state. So what is this work state in Tosca? So if you would see, right click, you could create some test cases in Tosca if you want to. So you could create test cases anywhere. Just go to the test case folder, right click, and then select create the test case. And over here, you could name the test case to anything that you would want by your own choice. So let's say if I would create some test cases over here, or I could create in this folder, even right click, and then create some test cases onto this. So let's say I would create some test case 2 and some test case 3 if I'm creating, and I can rearrange the test cases thing, whatever is created. I can select, drag and drop, cut, copy, paste. Even I can do it. I can rearrange things, and then renaming even test case is possible. So I could create some test cases. By default, when we are creating a test case, right? So if you would see, a test case structure would look like this, a folder and then component folder, right? And for the test case, if you would see here for the work state, what is the default work state? It is planned. So for this any test cases that you are going to create, the work state would be planned. So which means, okay, these are the test cases that I am planning to work on. Now, once we start working on that test case, so what could be the other status test cases status would be? What do you guys think? What we might have other than planned?
Maybe executor
For the test case in general, your manual
in
test case
general. Hmm.
status, what you would find what status you would have against the test case
In review,
in review. Okay, and
In progress, fail.
development,
in
completed.
progress,
development.
in progress, completed. So if you would see, so even for Tosca, if you see, planned is the first one work state, and then any test case, if you start working on that test case, so you would have something called in progress. You would be doing it, or you would be mentioning that status, right? Same way, even in Tosca, if you started working on any of the test case, then you can say from planned, you could select this drop down and say in work underscore in work over here. So here, what do you have here about the work state? If we say, so by default, we would have planned work state, but then if you are starting to work on any of that, you would have in work, in progress kind of thing we want to say. So we could select that. Once you select this, you see that test case icon representation, there is some difference from planned to in work. This is how it looks like. But then if any test case, let's say you have started working on in progress, you have changed the status, and once the test case is done, it is completed, right? Then you would mark the status from in progress. If it was marked in progress, then from in progress you can change it to completed. The once moment you click on this complete, select it, you see your test case would now look like this. So these are the three different work states that you would find. And why you have to use this? Because this would give some understanding, some idea on like if there's our test lead or manager or someone who would want to know uh, from the team, like overall, how many test cases have we have developed, how many are planned, how many are completed, or how many are still in progress. At a high level, if someone wants to get that count, then they can get it. If an individual tester starts using the work state kind of thing for the test case, so that would give that idea or get that stats if someone is looking for it. Other than that, if you don't need or any purpose, you could just directly create a test case, start working on the test case. So this work state planned in work in progress kind of thing, and then completed is what you will have this. So any questions from anyone? Majorly on the modules. Now, once you know what is this module, how we can identify, how we can locate. Now with this approach, the next thing that I'm going to explain is the action modes part. So in the action modes, what all action modes? So in action modes, we'll try to create some test case, and based on that, we will try to use the modules which we have created or whatever we required based on our flow, based on our test case that we would want to automate. We will be using the modules. and we will go through that action modes in the next session. So if you guys have any questions onto this previous, any topics, anything, you could just let me know.
Can you explain the rescan one?
Okay. Let's say here you have got so first of all, why do you rescan? Anyone? Why do we rescan? What is
I
the
wanted to
purpose
add
of
any new
rescan?
element.
When there are any modifications,
Modifications in
website or like
Model.
in works
on what? Like
modules, like the
Elements.
previous selected module, if there are any modifications and some IDs are changed or like
okay,
any
so
thing is changed.
about the existing elements is what you are talking about. What if the property might have been changed? Tosca is not able to locate this email label or something has been happened. So for that elements is what you are referring to, right? One is existing elements we have already used, scanned, and after some months, some changes were done in the application for which all the elements of this module might not be working as expected. Some changes have been made. Now, let's say out of this, if while we are scanning, the inner text of this was just email, let's say it was just email when we scanned it. But later on, the developer has changed it and then added E capital and then colon, something has been done, some changes. Because of this change, now this email label, if it is being used anywhere in the test case, that test case would get failed because when we scanned, the inner text was this, but now if we see, the inner text has been changed. When it is changed, the test case is getting failed. When we go identify, locate this, we have to rescan that module, select that module, rescan, and then do it. So rescanning we would do when any of the existing element is not functioning, not working as expected. That is one thing. Or the other part would be, what if on this screen login page I want to interact with this elements, and other than this elements I also want to capture the logo. I want to add one more element on the same screen, on the same module. I want, like, I only got two elements, but other than two, I want to add forgot me password or remember me checkbox. This elements I want to add here. Let's say, let's talk about this remember me checkbox. I want to add this, or forgot password even. This element I want to add. So if I want to do that, what we could do is select the module, right click and select rescan. So with this rescan, what we are trying to do, we would rescan only when we want to add any new elements of that page on that screen. If we want to, we would do it. Or if any of the existing elements has some issue, some properties not being identified or located, some element by Tosca, then we would be rescanning. So I hope everyone is clear on why we have to rescan. So with this rescan, Tosca would show whatever elements it has already had previously. It will try to map all those things, and everything, if everything is correct, you won't get anything. But if some element has any issues already existing, some issues if you have, you will see that elements, the list of that elements in the unmapped controls under here. You will see that elements. So unmapped controls, whatever you get, 1, 2, 3, whatever the count, 10, 20, whatever, how many elements you have, out of those elements, how many elements are not working fine on that page, all that would be in unmapped controls. So when it is in unmapped controls, if you want to locate, okay, other than this, assume everything is fine. I don't want to do any changes in the existing elements. Everything is fine is what I would assume. I just want new elements on this, on top of this 3, 4, 5 elements which I have selected. I want remember me checkbox to be added. I want forgot password link to be added. Then I would select on this particular thing, rescan, and on that I'll click now select on screen, And once I click on select on screen, because for the rescan you won't get that condense option. Condense is basically it would minimize that window, but now here we don't have that. We have to just adjust our window in a way, and then now you would move your mouse to the required element. So I want this checkbox, I would select this checkbox. If I want this forgot password link, I would select that part. Once I am done, whatever elements I want to, I will unselect it. That's it. So I've got those two elements. Now how these elements are identified? So this remember me checkbox, how it is being identified? Is it unique
ID
or no?
and it's unique.
Yes, those are
It's
unique.
unique, and then it is taking this property. And now if you think you can rely on this, good. If not, then pick some other property, make that element unique. So this is how you would add any new element. You are fine with this, click on save, close, done. Or if there are any unmapped elements, you would want even that existing elements to be working fine, then select on this, you would have some link button, map. Click on this map, and now Tosca would be suggesting or showing you what that element you would want to link it to. Whether it is like it is showing some password label or some remember me, some label, all the label related part Tosca is suggesting you. So out of this, which one do you want to select? Is what you could select any of this if which one it is there. Or if you don't know which element it is, what you could do is again select on screen, and then from the screen you know that element was email label. So now you would go and then find locate this email label, click on this. Once you click on that, Tosca is now showing where that element is, and it has selected that checkbox. And once it is done, so unselect this, and then once it is done, you would just click on this done button. Once you click on this done button, for this element, the module value, the inner text property was email, but application value, in the application, the value is email column. Now out of this two, which one do you think you would want to consider?
Application value.
Application.
Application value, because module value was not working. That's why we have rescanned. And the module value from inner text as email has been changed to email colon. That is the update. So I want this update. Click on that update. That's it. Now Tosca would be updating, scanning that, and then now this email label is now being identified. It is unique and being identified with inner text property and tag. But if you don't want this inner text property, you want any other property, you could even select this from this screen. That's it. With this, click on save and close. Done. This is how you would be rescanning. So any questions?
If you want to remove, then directly we can select and remove.
So this element, if you want to remove, right click, delete. That's it.
Okay.
Any element if you don't.
Okay, I mean, in the rescan also it will not come, right?
Yeah, in rescan also it won't come.
Between the elements, we have to do some time wait also, or not?
Yeah, all those things in our test case, in our test steps, we will try to do it depending
Yeah.
on requirement. Yeah. So I hope everyone is very clear on what is modules, what is standard modules, what is application specific modules, the custom modules, why we are creating application specific modules and all. So I hope it is clear to everyone.
Yes, boss.
Yes.
So once you know this module creation, what, why, and how, that's it. Most of the automation work, I would say you have done. Almost out of 100%, at least 50 to 60%. If you are able to create modules and use that module in your test case, 60% of your work is done. That's it. Rest 40% is you just have to add some flavors into that part and make it look good, better. That's the only thing we will have.